Hello Booktube, I'm Scott.
I'm now.
We're Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and it's Friday, and we're reading. Well,
Not right now.
Well, I am drinking a Gordon's Pink Gin and Soda. It's delicious.
I don't know what I'm drinking because it just came in a glass.
You're drinking whatever wine we had open in the fridge.
That's terrifying.
You asked for wine. All right. Friday Reads always has a shout out at the front now, because that's what we're doing. But this week, Booktube was good. Booktube was really good this week. There was one video that was just so emotional. There was one video where the Booktuber, I wanted to, cry watching the Booktuber review this book. And then, if I knew their address, I would have sent them a cheesecake.
You're talking about Olivia?
Yeah, her review of A Little Life was just so...
Spot on. All the reasons why I don't want to read it.
Yeah, but it was so emotion fueled, and I think it is just one of the finest reviews I've ever seen.
It was very authentically connected.
And I think if you don't watch Olivia, I think she's one of the best reviewers of books on Booktube, and this is why you should watch her.
I always know whether I will like a book based on her description, regardless of her opinion of the book.
Yes.
And I have been avoiding Little Life because I didn't think I would like it. And she confirmed all of my fears, and I completely trust her judgment, and it's just not on my tenure.
Yeah.
But her explanation of, if you loved A Little Life, I think you should go and watch Olivia's discussion of it.
Yeah, it's not disrespectful. It's not a rant
No.
so much as it is informed and thoughtful.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been some other, just the quality of Booktube this week. Basically, if you've made yourself a video, pat yourself on the back, because...
You did a good job.
Yeah,
But anyway...
Yeah. I've got 2 books to talk about.
We'll talk about them.
That's how many I finished. I finished Big Girl, Small Town by Michelle Gallen.
Was that the one that you were thinking about DNFing?
I don't think I was ever thinking about DNFing
Okay,
this
I was
book.
just checking.
I have mixed emotions about this book because, firstly, this book is a setting book, and I generally don't appreciate setting books. If your book is mostly about describing a setting, I'm not really that into it. If you're describing setting and doing other stuff, I am into it. And this described this character Nigella, and she was a big girl, and she worked at a fish and chip shop.
She's a fat lady. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know how fat she was, but she was big. She was fat. I don't know.
I hate that expression. It's so
you
dumb.
hate big, you prefer fat.
Yes, just say what it is. Euphemism makes it seem like it's something to be ashamed of.
Okay.
And I'm not a big girl. I'm 5 foot tall. I'm just fat.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you might describe my sister as a big girl. She's like 3 foot taller than me. It's a confusing word. It's stupid.
Have to climb a beanstalk to get to her house.
Pretty much. She's a giant.
Yeah. But this was, the character Nigella was, I really liked her as a character. Her grandmother had died, and she lives in one of these villages where everybody knows what's going on, but nobody tells you. And, everybody knows who's killed her grandmother but her. And in the meantime, she is working in this fish and chip shop. It's a little bit depressing, and it's a description of the poverty of the area and what's going on around her. But it's very slow. All of that I was there for, but it is very slow, and it's a little bit too slow for me. And one of the plot points of this, and it's actually a really nice plot point, but one of the plot points is her going out and buying herself a new duvet. Right? There really is not a lot in the way of plot except that there is this murder thing that's going on in the background, and that makes it sound like it's a crime novel, but it's not.
Yeah.
I
You don't know.
I really liked this book when it had me engaged, but it didn't keep me engaged very long because it was just too slow. It needed to be half as long, essentially, is what I think. But I understand why. This has got a fair bit of praise out there, and I do understand why. It is actually quite good at what it is doing. I wanted it to be faster.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I kind of do a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up giving it 3 stars, but I can really see this being a divisive book because of those reasons. Like, very good and very slow. I reread The Mayor of Casterbridge, which is a Thomas Hardy novel. I have been rereading all of Hardy, or all the new ones, as part of Jen the Librarian. I'm reading Thomas Hardy, but I have gotten a couple of books behind, so this is a catch-up. And I really liked this one.
Which one was it?
The Mayor of Casterbridge is the one
No,
you've
it's the
read.
one I've read.
The first time I read this book, I didn't think too much of it, and the second time I really enjoyed it so much more as a sort of a portrait of toxic masculinity. It was really good. There were things that happened in this book that I did not remember, but essentially, Hardy has done 2 things different than he normally does. Firstly, he's made a protagonist a horrible man, and he normally makes the protagonist a woman who is pursued by a horrible man. And that is an interesting thing. Secondly, Hardy normally starts off very slow and then slowly accelerates the novel until the end when it all collides together in misery. And this time he decided to start it with a collision in misery, and then it slows down in the middle, and then it speeds up again at the end. And I think that's interesting. And so The Mayor of Casterbridge is a book where this man gets drunk and he sells his wife for 5 guineas. And the wife wanders off, and then 16 years later, she comes back and she has a fully grown daughter in tow. And then, I mean, it's Hardy, people fall in love, there's coincidences, people misunderstand each other, there's depression. But ultimately, this man hasn't changed, even though he's taken a vow of abstinence from booze. And it is a portrait of that, really.
Yes.
Yeah, quite an unlikable character,
Yes.
really, in the end.
And in the beginning.
And more so in the beginning.
No, just the whole way through. He's a douche.
Well, he only sells a woman once.
But he's still a douche the whole way through.
He's a douche the whole way through, yeah. He just doesn't give a damn about other people, especially when he's losing his temper.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you read this week?
I finished Middle Game.
By Shauna Maguire.
Yes. I know that this is a divisive book, but I don't really understand why. It's good. Like, it's not literary fiction, and it's not anything... Like, I didn't feel like it did anything super controversial or experimental. Like, I don't understand why people hate it. I can understand being, like, lukewarm about it, but to actively hate it is weird to me. And I've seen some real, like, ranty hatred for it, and it just, like, I can't comprehend that.
It's a thriller, yeah?
I would say it's a fantasy.
It's a fantasy.
And it's sort of built on... The structure is that the timelines are labelled. So at the beginning of each section, you're, like, told which timeline, the date, and the amount of time that had passed or that you were going back from the last chapter.
Yeah, okay.
Which was necessary. in order to keep track of where you were at in the story.
Well, then I absolutely understand why people hate that.
It's not a Scott book. You would not enjoy the structure, but I don't like. It sort of says that it's going to do that on the tin. Do you know what I mean? Like, you would never pick it up.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like if you hated this book, you picked it up knowing you were going to hate it.
It's that sort of structure. It's the sort of thing where you have to like pay attention at certain points, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, date, whatever."
I feel like it was done so well. Like, I felt like it was done very well in the sense of like the sections were labeled. I listened to it on an audiobook. That is definitely the kind of thing that I'm most likely to lose track of when I'm listening to it on an audiobook versus reading physically. And I had no problem keeping up. And the timelines are sort of central to the. It wasn't unnecessary. It was required for the story.
Yeah, okay.
So it wasn't just I'm going to do this to be structurally interesting. It was part of the plot. The characters are good. The story's engaging. Really, I mean, like I said, it's not literary. It's a fantasy sort of. I don't know that thriller's the right, but almost mystery, I guess. Adventure book. And it was good. I really enjoyed it. I have everything I've read by Seanan McGuire so far. It was definitely much more adult.
Yeah.
There was lots more blood and guts and dying and stuff. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's my book.
That's your book. I DNF'd The Confessions of a Fox.
Give you one book.
Yeah, I really could not deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a novel with footnotes, and the footnotes are written by the author, but they essentially consisted of two things: telling me what the word minge meant, and various, like, who doesn't know? Does anybody out there not know what, like, am I being really, like...
I'd rather have a...
Yeah, but when you're like, you list like 8 different words for vagina, and then you put a little different sign next to them, and everything down there just says pussy. Right? But whatever. It was everything that the author was doing to make the story interesting. They would then put in the footnotes and explain to you what they would do. Like, it really dumbed down the story.
Yeah, okay.
So...
Not putting any trust in you as a reader.
They switched the gender of the pronouns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they told you that they did that. They changed the name of the main character, and then they told you that they did that. And I was like, this is slowing me down. This is taking me out of the book to tell me something that I actually noticed. And I just could not deal with that structure. And I have to read the footnotes. I can't ignore the footnotes.
Why not?
Because the author put them in there. And what if it's the one footnote that I need to read to understand the thing?
Then when you're confused, you can go back and look at the footnotes.
No.
No?
No, you're just not a purist.
I don't look at the footnotes unless I'm confused.
No.
No, unless it's like, unless I know it's like a structural decision by the author that they have, included the footnotes in their storytelling structure. I treat them like an appendix, essentially. And I only look if I don't know the meaning of the word the asterisk is next to, or I'm a little bit confused by the context, or... Like, if I'm not confused, I don't read it.
Yeah. Okay, well...
Is that weird? Am I weird?
No, you're probably normal. You're probably
I'm
fine.
asking them, not you.
It was just so heavily footnote. Like, half the page was footnote.
Yeah,
I felt like I had to read it.
Sounds like a decision.
Yeah, Like, it wasn't... Like, the footnotes and endnotes are in loads of books. Like, it's not like I haven't come across them before, but to that extent, this was almost as much as Pale Fire, if anybody's read that Nabokov work of art. I don't know what to call it. Experimental novel. This had almost as many footnotes as that in it. And from what Namaka couldn't pull it off. So, yeah. Now, you haven't DNF'd anything, have you?
No.
What are you currently reading?
I'm about halfway through Mr. Loveman. I really, really like Evaristo's style. I feel it feels very soft to me. It's just so understated and almost, I want to say immersive. I want to say like you don't really notice the structure or there's no floweriness or anything to detract away from being in the story.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's really nice and funny. So much funny so far. I really like the main character. Even though he's a misogynist twat, but he's a funny misogynist twat. I'm really enjoying him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you meant to feel about Barrington.
Is it?
I don't know. That's how I felt about him.
Yeah. So yeah, that's sort of what I've read most of this week.
I really agree that you can immerse yourself in Evaristo's world, and I think it's really good because you can like enjoy the like superficial level of it, and then later on you can think about it and you can look at what she was doing and what she's saying about the rights of gay people and the rights of Caribbean immigrants and those sort of the clever things she's put in, but you can just really just sit on the plot and then later on you can drill. I mean, you probably just drill and sit on the plot at the same time, but...
Yeah, I don't know that that's what I'm saying, but I do feel like her style is very unobtrusive. I feel like you're almost sitting in a movie. A few others, but honestly, I haven't really picked up anything else this week. Yeah, I do have a few more on the go, but I really have gotten sucked into Mr. Loverman. And so that has been the book that I've reached for pretty much all week.
Yeah.
And I'll probably finish it tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Or tonight.
Well, I have, like, started 4 books in the last 24 hours.
And DNF'd them all, or?
No, I don't really know what I'm doing with them all. So last night I started Still Aside by Conan Jones, which is... What are you shaking your head for?
I feel like that's not how it's said.
No, it's not, but it's much better than Canine, which is something else.
Yes, but Kieran is going to call us and correct you again.
I think it's much better. You got to look up his pronunciation.
Yes.
It won't be on Voxer still, it'll be gone. This is a dystopian novel where water is commodified. And our protagonist seems to be some sort of bodyguard / muscle / hired gun that is protecting a water train. I've only read the first chapter and a bit, and so far so good. Conan.
There you go.
See? I was pretty close. I mean, I have a horrendous accent that's fucking it up, but other than that...
Yeah, you did the Australian version of correct.
Yeah, I boganed it up.
Alright.
I started La Bastarda, which is a Equatorial Guinea novel. This is something I meant to read whenever Invisible Cities did Equatorial Guinea, probably March or something a long time ago. I just didn't get to it. What happened, this is weird, like I've been going to the doctors a little bit, and because I got something wrong with my tummy, and every time I've gone, I've taken a book with me, and like I've read a paragraph, and they're like, Scott, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I had like the first appointment at the doctor's in the morning. I'm like, I'm not going to take a book because I want to go straight into work and I want my book back at home because I'll lose it because that's the sort of idiot I am. And then they made me wait for half an hour because of various reasons that is actually not at all their fault. And so I needed to read another book. And so I got on Scribd and I grabbed an ebook. So that's why that happened. Then I started the audiobook for The Confessions of Franny Langton, which is the story of a black slave girl who was accused of murdering her owner and his wife. But this is one of these books now where you know that you like it, but I don't. It's that style. You know that style. There's a whole genre of books.
Do you usually like fantasy? Is it a fantasy?
No, it's a historical fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, I was having a bit of trouble with it, so I was like, I decided to listen to this audiobook because my brain was like a little bit fried and I wanted something easy, and I just didn't find the language easy. So after persevering with it for a couple of hours, I put on The Godfather, which is exactly the sort of easy my brain wanted.
It sounds terrible.
Terrible. Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you watched the movies?
Yes.
Were they terrible?
Yes.
I mean, more so than other movies?
You're exhausting.
And the other one we're currently reading is our audiobook together in the car, which is,
Not winning my heart at all.
yeah, I think this one's going to be a DNF. I think it's just a matter of when we agree on DNFing it, isn't it? The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Has anyone had a good experience with that? Don't take my toys away from me.
Don't play with them right next to the microphone.
Spoil sport.
I know on Goodreads, Ange gave it 4 or 5 stars.
Why did you like it, Ange?
And normally Ange is pretty good with her.
Well, she might point something out that's interesting and that we can hang on to,
Yeah.
but at the moment it's not.
She might have just had more patience with us and it gets good later on.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, love
Bye.
you. Bye.